Hey everyone, I'm Michael Bruce, CMO at Agent Moves, and welcome to our Good to Great series. We're all about sharing the amazing stories of top realtors and how they got there so we can help make more realtors great. So let's jump in today with our guest, Ken Girty. Hey Ken, how you doing?
Good, Michael. About yourself?
All right, good, thanks. I always like introducing agents with something other than real estate, although, yours really plays deeply into real estate. So, a couple of things about Ken. We'll talk about real estate stuff soon, but he really got involved. He was a COVID agent flipping homes, and, he'll talk to you about how he got involved in real estate. But he worked for a digital agency doing paid search and paid social, which I find really interesting. And we'll talk about that as we get into like marketing and prospecting. And he was a content creator for a gaming company. So I think that's kind of cool to hear a little bit about what that means, content creation, like for the game, for the promotion of it. But tell us a little bit about the experience prior to real estate.
Yeah, so it wasn't exactly for a gaming company. I was my own content creator, primarily on the streaming platform Twitch. I was a live streamer. I did have, my TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff to support those platforms. But my main thing was the game was called League of Legends, and I would stream like 60 hours a week, just literally me playing the game, playing different champions, doing different things to get views. I ended up amassing about 20,000 followers by the end of my stint on Twitch. And it was really cool. I got to travel to Detroit to see like the big North American finals. It was insane. They sold out Little Caesars Arena. It was really neat to be a part of that and just be in the crowd and the experience. And I really amassed a nice, cool little community for myself. I'm very fortunate that I was bigger than most, but not at the big top of the top where you can't still interact with your fan base. So it was a really cool career for a while there.
Wow, wow. Yeah, I mean when that started, I know I was kind of connected through my children are adult kids, and through one of their kids actually watching them watch video games.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of it was like we didn't get it. Like, wait a minute, you're watching people play video games and cannot believe like what an industry it turned into. So what happened when you decided to leave?
I'll tell you what, it really was. So for as amazing of a time that it was good for that season of my life. But eventually it turns into a few different things. Is your income is very up and down, same with your viewership. I saw friends that were really a lot bigger content creators than myself, and over something minute that they may have known about or never known about, they get their channel banned or they just lose favor with the algorithm. And they might have had several hundred people watching them at a time, and then they would struggle to get 15, and their income is directly tied to that. So it's really anxiety producing or inducing, excuse me, if you go, hey, okay, I got 2 strikes on YouTube. If I get one more, there goes everything that I built for years and years, and it's gone like that. And then also too, the amount of time, and this is very common in the video game industry, regardless of what scene that or what part of it that you are, it's a lot of hours. Like you are constantly doing, it's just a grind. And it also becomes a little bit lonely, if I'm being honest with you here, that you're in your office 24/7 looking behind a computer, and you're saying no to a lot of social opportunities because when you're not live, when that little red dot isn't on your face, you're not making money, you're not getting exposure, you're not interacting. So it was a lot. And I started to get more serious with my at the time girlfriend, now wife, and I was like, you know what, I really want something that I can have a little bit more of a work-life balance. And ironically, I got into real estate with that. But it was, I wanted something that could actually be a little bit more present in life for it. So it was hard to take a step back, but it was definitely a good choice. And I'm very thankful for the experience I had.
Wow, well, beautiful. Yeah, I know that you're only doing this like 3.5 years, but sold, I think you said, like 31 homes last year. You're
Yeah.
already, volume wise ahead of last year. So tell us about, the first year getting involved in real estate. How did it happen and what did it look like for you?
Yeah. So it got my first year in real estate was originally so I could purchase my own homes and sell them whenever, my business partner and I fixed and flipped them. And almost immediately I went, you know what? I like being an agent a lot more because, as soon as you post that you're an agent, as soon as you get your license, you do the things, hey, on Facebook and whatnot. I had a few people reach out to me just through my sphere, be like, hey, I need an agent, especially during the COVID times. Everything was crazy. And I realized very immediately, I'm like, I love this. I love this so much more than, crawling in dirty basements and busting busting down walls and chasing after contractors. And at the end of the day, you're still gambling with your own money at the end. So I really dove into that. And I also recognized too, in order to be a good agent, a solid agent, you cannot do this part-time. You just can't. Like, if you're going to do it properly, dedicate everything that you have to it in service of your business and your clients. And, that's the only real way, in my opinion, to do it ethically. So I took that step. My business partner and I, we said, okay, we're going to stop flipping. And I dove really into this. And that's how I got started. That's how I got started. The first year was a lot, because first of all, it being COVID, everyone told me that has been doing this for years. They're like, I don't know why you chose, like, I understand why you chose to do it now, but man, it's hard. And I liked it though. I really liked the challenge. I liked, sort of figuring stuff out. There's so many different ways in real estate that you could go down, and still be successful at it. So that was the first year. I didn't really have much of any mentorship. I signed on with EXP at first, and theirs is a particular business model, which is great, but not a lot of support with it. So I really had to figure everything out for myself, from the paperwork on how to use showing time and the MLS and all that stuff. So it was hard, like, you're getting business, but you don't even know really how to service that business. So it was a lot of a learning curve, and I made a lot of mistakes too. But at the end of the day, it was good. It was a good learning experience. Trial by fire.
Excellent. Yeah, we're going to talk about the mistakes in a minute, because those are great
Sure.
things for other people to learn from.
Yeah.
Now you move into year 2, and last year, tell us, like, how, what are you doing? How are you generating your leads? 31 homes is beautiful. It's a great year.
Yeah.
Others are struggling, with different parts of the country. So tell us what you're doing to, to get those listings. And are you more of a buyer or seller agent?
So last year was more of a buyer, and this year the goal and intent was for more of a selling agent. And I am shifting more to the listing side. And for that matter too, a lot of my listings are buyer listing combinations. So that's also good too. But yeah, so much of my business in the past has been driven via the buying side, specifically relocations. So I was like, okay, the listing side, the opportunity is clearly there. So let's try to concentrate some efforts into getting more listings, just to make the business a little bit healthier.
So when you're talking relocations, is that like a niche that you found, or you're targeting that?
It's through largely the KW network and through just a lot of my social media efforts. I've had people reach out to me that say, hey, Ken, I have a client looking to move to Pittsburgh, or I myself want to move to Pittsburgh. Can you help me? And it just is a niche that sort of developed. I can honestly say that I didn't at first intend to be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. But I guess I got really good at just doing, virtual showings for people and doing stuff of that nature to make people who are purchasing a house without ever stepping foot in it, let alone the state or the city, actually be comfortable. So, and then from that point forward, they've actually been referred to some of my past relocation clients to others that, they might be moving because they're all in the same company or the military or whatever season of life that they're entering. And it's been a really big compliment that people are referring me that are my past clients, that, their friends or family might be doing the same move as them.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. That's the best you can, right? Being recommended, and the referrals from past customers, there's nothing better than that. So
Yeah.
are you generating, is everything coming like from your sphere? Or are you doing events? Are you running with your paid search and paid social background? Are you doing anything in search that way?
So no, I'm not doing anything in paid search and paid social right now. And if you'd like for me to get into the technical weeds, I'll happily explain to you why.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely.
So in the paid search and the paid social, a lot of the things that we be competing over, as far as like specific keyword searches and stuff of that nature, you're also going to be competing over against, wholesalers and novations, that at the end of the day, those companies are going to have a lot fatter margins per deal and be able to afford and outbid you as an agent. As an agent, we're going to get a whatever percentage. As a wholesaler, flipper, novations, they're going to get potentially tens of thousands of dollars per deal. So they will just have a lot more bidding power to push you out. So I did my research on it. I really didn't go into that realm of it yet, because there are strategies you can employ to sort of get around those bigger players. But in order for me to get into the business I have gotten, is trial and error. That, one of the things that I did, for instance, and I'm a big supporter of, I do this all myself at first, and I try to like multiply it and automatize. I think I'm using that word incorrectly. So for instance, one of the big things I was doing for in my office was I used to just handwrite cards, to neighborhoods, specifically ones that my buyers, because I was so buyer heavy, go, hey, this buyer wants to be in this particular neighborhood. I would go and do my research and, like I said, handwrite cards. I would do a wax seal. I'd decorate them myself. And I would do these by a few hundred, to the point that that was my whole entire 10-hour day, just writing, decorating, sending them out. And then I got a couple deals by doing that. And I was like, okay, this is possible to get business doing that. So then eventually I went, okay, how can I automate? I hired a marketing specialist to start doing all those things for me. We have a very systematized way, a systematized backend to be like, okay, every listing, every time a buyer wants to get into a certain neighborhood, we sort of have a machine that just sort of pumps things out. So it's good. Now the ones that if I go, hey, this doesn't work, then I don't try to double down on it. I go, this didn't work. I did my small test. Time to move on.
I think from what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing again across other agents, first of all, unique in the way you're handwriting, looking to create that seal, that right. So it's something different in the mail, right? Because we know what goes on today, the typical, and postcards, like as an example, work. We actually do that for some people as well, because it does work when you're farming with the right message, right? With the right information, you putting it into, something that's the tactile part to this for it not to get thrown out so quickly, right? There's something unique about it. I want to open up this thing that's sealed with this, that. So I'm sure your open rate on your mail is probably higher than your open rate on your email.
Yeah, it is. It objectively is.
Yeah, but no. So interesting. Okay, so is that your main way of generating leads, or do you do events? Or you're in the community? Other niches that you're really working.
So this year for 2025, and I dipped my toe into it a little bit throughout last year as well, I am getting more community focused and events focused. Here is a little fun fact for Pittsburgh real estate. I've been told that the national average of the time somebody will spend in a house is between 5 to 7 years. Pittsburgh is 16, right? So if you are intertwined with the neighborhood, people are going to recognize that, and they're going to want to work with you just out of comfortability. So my family and I, we have that. I actually went to school. I graduated high school in the neighborhood my wife and I now live in, in that school district. And for that matter too, like my mother and my father both went here. So like we have generations back. So I noticed, I'm like, that's a missed opportunity. So I'm really trying to get into, once again, my marketing specialist who I hired out is organizing some events for us to, like, for instance, one of the things I did in the past years was I organized a big trick-or-treating event for my townhouse community. That was really good. And I got a listing doing something like that just to get my name out there. What I'm also doubling down with this year is sponsoring some, it's referred to as adult swims in the local community pool here, where it's like, okay, they have like food trucks and brewery sponsorships. And I'm like, I'd love to be your real estate guy and try to, stand out with that. We're going to have a game that we're going to do, give away a few prizes and stuff to really get people in. Anything that I do, I want to make sure that I stand out and I bring value to somebody. That it was interesting. The event coordinator for these events told us that in the past years, there was a real estate agent that used to do these, but he would just print out listings from the MLS and be like, here's, the local listings. Nothing to really prompt somebody to come up and have a conversation or interact with you or make you feel comfortable. So anything I try to do, I really try to stick out with. So yeah, I still do. I'm getting more into events. I'm doubling down, tripling down really on social media, doing a lot of direct mail and really trying to leverage, the fact that my family and I have been in not just Pittsburgh, but this neighborhood for quite some time.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. Yeah, definitely the expertise in the area, I think, goes a long way, right? People want to work with someone that really knows the area. And, separately, I'll give you some ideas that we've had on how to, keep that communication monthly going to your sphere, and to any lead that you generate from anywhere. But I have found that to be huge with a lot of agents, that they are the expert in this area, period. Even if they brought in by another buyer agent, possibly, to a listing, I've seen things change because the person wants to work with someone that really knows when they know they want to be in that community. Yep. So I think it's great stuff. I thought you were going to tell me that you're also going, those thousands of people that you were connected with in gaming, I guess, are those the same followers on your Facebook, or is it a separate community you have?
Completely separate. You know what? I got to say that when I started to get into real estate, I did advertise to all my gaming followers. And I was, because it's such an internationally wide
Yeah.
audience, I wasn't able to help out any directly by being their agent, but I was able to refer a couple agents to people in my community, in my past community. But no, I don't really leverage that too much, if I'm being honest. The people that I think that showed up for that at part of my life were there for the gaming content. I don't want to just shove real estate content down their throat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. The flip side is, you understand their business, right?
Mm.
I look at it differently. Like you have empathy towards whatever goes on, like your day as a gamer. Like, you were telling us how you have to be in front of that computer all of the time, right? So you can bring something to the table to the gaming community, understanding what they need, whether it's virtual open houses, or whether it's, helping them sell, being in there, whatever it might be. I just think there's something, that's unique about what they're going through every day. But that's a separate conversation for another day. So let's go back. You gave us some really good ideas on what you're doing positively. Give us some things that, boy, I'll never do that again.
I'll never buy leads again. Simple as that. When I first got in, I had a little nest egg, and I was really fortunate. In my first week of being a real estate agent, I did like $750,000 in business across like 3 transactions. Literally first week. I cannot say that it kept up, throughout the rest of that first year by any means. And so it's like, okay, great. I had a little nest egg. That was great. And I fell for every single one of those stupid ads that every real estate agent gets served about, like, we promise you this. We'll do that, pay per lead at closing or whatever per month. I bought thousands upon thousands of dollars cumulative and all across maybe 10 different platforms. Some worked a little bit better than others, but majority didn't. And I'm glad that they didn't, because it was interesting that there were a couple that they worked out okay. But like a lot of tech startups, a lot of them aren't here anymore. So I'm glad I didn't get dependent on that. If I got dependent on that for my business, then I would have been in a big spot. Sort of how I talked about before. It's like, you can turn your channel off, like on YouTube, and then all of a sudden you're out of income. If your lead generation company that you're relying on just goes, we ran out of funding, we decided to sell, whatever, you no longer have any means to lead generate. So I was really happy, not at the time, but I was really happy that I did not have that level of success that any of them promised. It was really good that it's like, hey, you have to learn how to do it on your own. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Do the work. Simply do the work and experiment. It's okay to fail. It's expected, and that's part of the learning process. And see what works for you too. I mean, that was my biggest failure. Like I said, which is I burnt so much money in one of the most expensive lessons of my career thus far.
All right, we'll take it. I know it works for some people, but hey, when you try it, like you said, and I'm sure also with your digital background and really understanding paid search, paid social, you might have even a little bit of a different view on the paid leads positively, right? Because this is part of your whole digital world. And then seeing it not work, again, it's a good experience, like you said, right? At least that's not for you. These do work in some markets for people really well, and in others, I'm hearing a lot of things as well where I would never do that again. So. And now you have a model, like you said, to just keep building on without relying on paid leads that way. I love it. I love it. Hey, great advice. Really appreciate the time. Like, we look for, if someone can leave with 1 or 2 nuggets from this, watching this, right? It's a home run. That's how I look at it. And I think you gave us a couple of really good things here for, people to go out and try themselves.
Yeah. One of my biggest pieces of advice that I ever got early on in my career is like, hey, if you don't have money, you have time, right? So go ahead and door knock 100 doors. It doesn't matter, like, don't be afraid to make an idiot of yourself, or to look foolish. Go ahead and post on Facebook. That's free, do all the things that you wouldn't be able to do later on in your career when you're too busy. So
I love it. I had another agent recently tell me she wears her name tag everywhere she goes. And she could be in the supermarket and someone will say, oh, you're a realtor? And again, a conversation gets started at the drugstore. And that's like her thing, right? It doesn't matter where she is. She loves talking about it without having to be pushy. People are basically coming up to her. So, great advice on your end. Really appreciate the time. And hey, follow Ken on social media. I'm going to follow him. We're going to see how much more he's doing. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And until next time, Ken, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.